Hey everybody, welcome to our first episode, or our first podcast. This is Fire and Flavor, at least the name of this episode. AJ Fernandez, Fire, the industry impact, and the art of tasting cigars. So just to start us off here, just run you through what we're going to talk about today. Got the AJ Fernandez Fire that we're going to speak on, you know, how it happened, how I heard from little insiders from the industry on what actually occurred, you know, all the efforts that went into rebuilding as well. The AJ Fernandez himself, the background on the company, just a little bit of more information for you guys as far as the educational part of this podcast. The industry impact, you know, AJ Fernandez, I don't know if you know this, we will get into it more a little bit later, but AJ Fernandez rolls cigars for a lot of different companies, and we're going to get into those companies specifically and how this exact fire is going to impact all of those different companies. And then we're going to get into the art of tasting cigar. So we're going to give you tips and tricks from our perspectives on how we taste cigars, and then hopefully you guys can pick up a couple things. I think one of the big things is going to be just experience, smoking more often, but we're going to get into that a little bit later here. And then we do have an after show here which will be exclusive on this podcast format as well as Rumble. So if you're watching this on YouTube, head on over to Rumble, and you can see all that unfiltered after show content, which we will be doing our cigar rating, which we both have two different AJ Fernandez's. We'll get into that here shortly. We will be doing that overall rating there in the after show, as well as our Smoke Shack new media rollout and plans for the show here as far as the podcast and our different episodes throughout the week. So stay tuned here for that after show, and then just some, you know, raw, unedited stuff as well in that after show. So just getting into it right off the bat, we're going to get into our two different cigars. Connor, would you like to lead us off with your AJ Fernandez selection?
Yeah, absolutely. So very traditional smoke here, the AJ Fernandez New World. This is a bigger size than, you know, you normally see me smoking on this channel. I generally go for the Robustos. This is a 6x52 Toro. I picked this one up actually a while ago, so this has been in my humidor for maybe 2 or 3 years now. I actually bought this in South Carolina over the summer, like 3 years ago, and it's just never one that's like I just haven't pulled it out of the humidor. So
Right.
Looking forward to this today. It has that Connecticut shade wrapper with a San Andreas Mexican filler. Pretty excited for that.
The binder. Mexican,
Really started to like that Mexican San Andreas flavor, that spice that it brings to the sticks here. And then it's a Nicaraguan and Brazilian filler.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting cigar. I know the New World line is one of the most famous lines. I've never personally had the Connecticut version, so excited to see what Connor picks up as far as flavor notes and stuff from that end. I have chosen one of their newer cigars here, AJ Fernandez's 20th anniversary cigar. This is a much more expensive cigar than Connor's. I didn't do that on purpose. I just saw them and thought, man, this looks cool. And then being a newer cigar, figured, why not just go ahead and grab this? These things MSRP for about $25 a stick, or $500 for the whole humidor and everything. And it is a humidor. I'm going to show it up on the video. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can see that now. It is really, really good looking humidor here. They have like this Boveda pack area or humidification slot right in the middle that you can put your humidification stuff, and then the cigar sitting on the outside. Just really, really cool humidor here for these cigars. This is to commemorate AJ Fernandez's, or to celebrate their 20th anniversary of AJ Fernandez. These were released about October of last year, but I think they didn't start shipping till November. Even with all of that being said, they were still on Half Wheel's top 25 last year. So that's not something that I knew about before this show, before doing research for the show, Connor. So I'm very excited that this is on Half Wheel's top 25. Definitely something that I'm going to dig my teeth into and see exactly why it landed on that top 25. I think it's tough for the AJ Fernandez just because they released it so late in the year that, you know, you get on a top 25 and people don't really hear about it because it's last year's news already. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but these were made 7,500 boxes of 20, so 150,000 total cigars were made. So very nice there. And then all of these are a 6x56 Toro, Nicaraguan wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and you guessed it, Nicaraguan fillers.
We've been on a real Nicaraguan kick here on the Smoke Check. The last 2 cigars I smoked were full Nicaraguans.
Yeah, okay. We have been smoking a lot of Nicaraguan.
Just to highlight that, though, Halfwheel does have both of these cigars rated at a 91. So we're going to have to see how we compare, especially with that price score per point.
Yeah. Well, price per point is definitely going to be a lot better on yours than this one, just because this is already sitting at $25.
I think this is like a $9 to $10, maybe $13, somewhere in that house.
Yeah. Let's see here. At least this is the number we got on Halfwheel. It's around $6 a stick. Okay. So they're probably $8 a stick nowadays. Because this is an article from... Oh, it was 84, it's 84 on here.
Okay. Misspoke there. I think someone has it rated at 91. Maybe Cigar,
maybe it's a different Vitola, too.
Yeah, it might have been.
Vitola. In fact, he is smoking the same Vitola as you, the 6x52 Toro on here.
$6 a pop.
Yeah. I don't know when this was actually printed.
Well, that's not really extremely relevant.
No. But it's probably $8 now.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut these and light these open. So we're going to take a little bit of break here on the podcast. We'll catch you back here shortly while we get these things cut and lit open. Coming back into the show here from that brief little break. Lit our cigars up. As far as my flavor goes, just right out of the gate, it has been really, really robust. I'm not going to get into details. I will do that in the after show. But so far, very rich, very enjoyable experience here for this cigar. Presentation score, or the craftsmanship score, is really high here as well. So we're probably looking at in the 9s here, at least in the high 8s. Find out here in the after show. Connor, your initial thoughts on your cigar. Do not give too many details, because we will be doing this in the after show.
Slightly uneven burn line. However, that ash color is like, wow. I mean, that's almost ideal.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
Like, look at that.
A little spotty, but
just one spot there. But it looks like it's like firmly compact, and the flavor it's a mouthful. It was like really strong, like an incense flavor when I first fired it up, and it's kind of died off into like a baking spice, kind of mild, earthy flavor here.
Interesting.
Pretty tasty.
Okay.
I'm just like blown away by that ash color, though.
Yeah, that is some good looking ash color. We're going to get into the details here of the cigars and rate them at the very end of the show, or in the after show, I should say. We're going to go through all of our scores from the craftsmanship, first, third, second, third, and final third, like we normally do during our reviews. Just be a little bit fast paced in that after show.
Also, look at that resting smoke on this. I mean, it's a little bit out of the cap, but that's for a $6 stick. I mean, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, so if you're watching in our YouTube or Rumble, you can see Connor's resting smoke there. If you're not, well, just have to imagine it. But we're going to get into the cigar news here, or our AJ Fernandez news, and why we were smoking AJ Fernandez today, or why we chose to smoke AJ Fernandez today. So March 31st, just a couple days ago, really, a significant fire erupted in Tabacalera AJ Fernandez Cigars de Nicaragua, which is in Estelí, Nicaragua. The blaze began at about 8 a.m. local time in the packaging area of the factory and was successfully extinguished by early noon. Fortunately, all 1,500 employees, including the 70 children from the factory's kindergarten, were safely evacuated, and no injuries were reported. Fire caused substantial damage, particularly to finished cigars and packaging materials prepared for both domestic distribution and international export. While the exact cause of the fire remains under investigation, initial reports indicate that raw tobacco inventories and aging stock were largely spared. Tabacalera AJ Fernandez is a key production site for both the company's own brands, such as New World, which is Connor is smoking right now, Enclave, and San Lotano, and third-party partners including Altadis, Scandinavian Tobacco Group, Foundation Cigar Company, Southern Draw, and Artesano del Tabaco. In light of the incident, Foundation Cigar Company issued a statement acknowledging potential delays in a limited availability of certain products in the near future. Now, those exact Foundation cigars that they are talking about is their Tabernacle series, as all the Tabernacle series is made at AJ Fernandez. This cigar community has expressed strong support for the AJ Fernandez and his team. In a message shared via the company's social media channels, the AJ Fernandez team expressed gratitude for the outpouring support and emphasized their commitment to resilience and unity in moving forward. As the situation develops, further assessments will determine the full extent of the damage and the impact on the production schedules and, just production schedules for all the different companies impacted. But just right off the bat there, Connor, I know I sent that over to you, I think, the day that it happened. Just initial thoughts on the fire there.
Yeah, so initially I was like, wow. I mean, especially with the tariffs, cigar prices might get quite expensive here in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But it was really impressive to see just a day or two ago that they're already back up in business and producing again, so that's impressive.
I'm not sure if they're 100% producing again, but I do know for a fact that they did have that packaging area that was burned down. It was already rebuilt.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's what we were looking at. Now, the damage wasn't really occurred in the rolling rooms or anything. The main damage was in their aging room and their packaging materials.
I'm really curious to see how much stock was actually lost. How much aged stock, stuff that's
right,
not going to be repairable or replaceable within, say, a year. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that aging room stock, I mean, most of that stuff sits in there for 2 years, so that's tough to lose all of that. And apparently, from what I heard from Perdomo sales reps at a event that I was at, number one, Nick Perdomo and the Perdomo family gave AJ a lot of support here. They sent him trucks full of stuff, as well as a lot of other companies sent Fernandez just a bunch of stuff to try to get him up and going again, from nails to screws to hinges, because obviously all their materials, packaging materials, were damaged, so they needed a lot of that to just be able to get stuff out the door. But they were saying that this happened in the aging room itself. So in the aging rooms, they have these basically big humidifiers. And what they are is just, I guess the best way to say it is they're just boiling water in there.
Like a mister boiling room type thing.
So they have a little fire going under this water. Well, they put these cedar splints in there. Well, the cedar splints, if they get wet, they kind of poof, they do one of those. Well, all the tobacco in their aging rooms is pretty dry stuff because it's aging in there. We got the humidity cranked up high. Now, the one thing is when they actually roll the cigars, the humidity is so high on the cigars because they want the leaves to almost be wet and pliable so that they can roll them.
They can roll it. They can stretch it. They can really get it flat when they're rolling them.
Right, and then they put them in the aging room to basically take that humidity out and then get them to a more perfect level. Anyway, you really don't want to get water on this fire that's below this humidity mister thing. Not really sure the exact wordage for that particular unit. But what happened is what I heard was they got water on it or splashed some water while refilling the tank, and the fire just combusted, caught a bunch of the cigars and packaging material on fire, and just started going down. Now, apparently this happens a lot in the cigar industry, whether it be or most of the time in the aging rooms from this exact same type of fire. Now, what makes AJ Fernandez's different than everybody else is AJ's Estelí location, which he has 2 locations. The other one, actually, I'll get into that a little bit later here whenever we go through the background of the company. But his Estelí, Nicaragua location, it's all one big facility. It's all one big building, so that fire could have spread throughout the whole building itself. A lot of these other cigar companies have a separate aging room. So if that burns down, it sucks, but you don't burn everything else. Yes.
What's interesting here is I'm curious is how fast it spread too, right? Because in the United States, our fire infrastructure and emergency response is set up to like a 5 to 7 minute response time in the cities, and it's slightly higher in suburbs, obviously different if you're in a rural area. But generally, if you have a house fire or a building fire in the city, you got 5 to 7 minutes before crews are on site. These countries are less developed than the United States. I'm wondering what their firefighting infrastructure looks like and how that might have possibly impacted allowing the fire to spread so quickly too.
Yeah, I mean, I know that for Nicaragua, there's not a whole lot of production of anything else that comes out of there besides tobacco. So I would have to imagine, especially AJ being a big player there in the Nicaraguan market, that the response time had to have been pretty quick for him, just because they probably positioned a fire department near there.
Or they might even have something on site.
Or even they have their own fire department. Yeah, I mean...
we'll have to look. That might be curious.
Like I said in that article that I was reading there earlier, or at least this news highlights that I was reading, there were children there, kindergartners that came out of there. So Nick, I said Nick because I'm talking Perdomo still in my head. AJ, he actually built a school in the factory. So unlike the U.S. where we just have the right to go to school and you pay your tax dollars and it's all taken care of, you're picked up on a bus. Well, they don't have that in Nicaragua. It's a privilege to go to school. Well, for all the factory workers, and if you work at AJ Fernandez factory in any capacity, you could have your kids go to school there. So he has his own school, provides free education for those kids. I just think that's pretty awesome that he has that there. So he can also have probably his own fire department. In fact, maybe we should ask ChatGPT that.
That's another thing to highlight in the cigar industry, right? Like, some of these people are competitors. Some of these people Fernandez rules for, right? But they're all reaching out and helping the community of the cigar industry. Like, since we've started this, podcast and show, 98% of the people we talk to are very supportive and helpful, and you're not going to find someone who's not willing to reach out and give you a hand.
Right. No, I agree with you. So it does say that they do not have anything publicly available as far as AJ having its own fire department.
So I wonder if it was almost like a bucket brigade, like something you'd see in, the 1800s here.
No, it looked like they were pretty good vehicles. I might be able to pull up some pictures here. It says they fire local firefighters from Estelí. So I don't know if that's like the same as ours, if it's paid for. Fire departments can get different.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're something to think about, definitely. And I think it's something that they need to think about for future, to prevent this happening in the future, really, is that they might want to have their own.
Yeah, right. Like at least a tanker truck or something.
Yeah, on site.
Especially if it's so common in the industry where.
And I didn't know that.
Neither did I, actually.
But that's what Perdomo said. Now, maybe the fires that we hear about are just not that big. That's why we don't hear about them.
Or it takes out one little, one section, no big deal.
Right. Makes you think about having a fire extinguisher in there, but if you shoot the fire extinguisher off, you're definitely going to ruin all those cigars, no matter what. Mm-hmm. I guess the water if you get water on the cigars, even if we soak them, you still have a chance to dry them out, I guess.
You could re-age
right?
them. I mean, they might not be as good a quality, but I would imagine that you could re-ferment them and dry them back out. I don't know this, but
Yeah.
you know what's interesting here is this is a large player in the industry, right? Like, no offense to Tabanero, but they're very much a boutique brand at this point.
Yes.
And they're very, very good cigars, amazing quality. But I wonder if this happened at, say, their rolling site, if you would even hear about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Probably not. This one, again, like you said, it impacts a lot of different players in the cigar industry.
Yep.
So obviously it's going to come to light for
And
that.
the Scandinavian Tobacco Company, I mean, they have the collaboration, the Buffalo Trace series. So they're
Right.
producing a lot of different unique cigars here too.
Right, yes. And I'm not sure if those ones are exactly produced there or not. But they do make a lot of different cigars. In fact, we're going to get into that here in a little bit later. But actually, we're going to go ahead and take a break because we're about getting towards the end of our first thirds here. We want to get to our scores together for that after show, so we're going to take a little bit of a brief break here. So we'll see you next time. Yeah, no, we'll see you next time. No, we'll see you here in a little bit. Bringing you back in here, we're going to go through the AJ Fernandez, or at least his backstory here as far as the company goes. So AJ Fernandez Cigar Company was founded by Abdel J. Fernandez. Their headquarters is in the factory that burned down or had the fire in Estelí, Nicaragua. They were founded in the early 2000s, I believe 2004. Well, this is the 20th anniversary cigar, so I believe it is 2004, but I do have early 2000s here. Main factories are obviously the one in Estelí that had the fire, and then the other one, excuse me, I was burping there a little bit. San Lotano factory and Tato Galpa, which is also in Nicaragua. I just cannot say Tato Galpa. Connor, would you like to get into just the backstory or the story of AJ?
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is just on a quick side note, though. One of my coworkers is from Puerto Rico, so he speaks fluent Spanish. He makes fun of the way we pronounce a lot of these Latin terms.
I bet.
But so getting into Abdel Fernandez's background here a little bit, he's better known in the industry as AJ Fernandez, and he comes from a long line of Cuban tobacco growers and cigar makers. Born in San Luis Pinar del Rio, Cuba, the heart of the Cuban tobacco country, AJ grew up under the guidance of his grandfather and father, both of whom worked with tobacco and cigars. His grandfather had worked closely with San Lotano, a Cuban brand that AJ would later revive in Nicaragua. In the early 2000s, AJ moved to Nicaragua and began working in relatively obscurity, making cigars for catalog brands and house labels. His reputation for quality, consistency, and blending talent quickly earned him attention from major players in the industry. AJ's rise to prominence. His breakout moment came with the San Lotano line, followed by a massive success with his New World Series, which I'm smoking right here, and the Enclave. AJ's production quality and his ability to blend traditional Cuban style with modern Nicaraguan power gained him international recognition. Today, AJ Fernandez is not only a premium brand in its own right, but a trusted manufacturer for numerous other cigar companies.
So, I mean, just from what you said there about the Cuban background and everything in Nicaraguan, I can taste it in this cigar. In fact, it's already in my notes that this tastes like a Cuban cigar. The balance, the smoothness,
absolutely,
it's phenomenal.
And it has that flavor too. You know, like there's not like one flavor really bouncing off, but it's really nice. Like it's a cigar that smokes better at a drier humidity point. There's absolutely no bitterness in the cigar at all. There's no musky flavors here. It's a very creamy, earthy, maybe a mild like hay, like light barnyard in there, but it's what you taste when you smoke a Cuban.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into my flavor details till after, in the after show, but very, very Cuban-esque from the flavor profile. I just was blown away whenever I lit this thing up at how Cuban related it was with Nicaraguan tobaccos. Just very interesting. Maybe it's got to be doing with the curing process or something on that end. AJ would know.
Cuban seed.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even really mention that until you said it, but when you did, I was like, yeah, absolutely, light bulb moment.
It definitely tastes very Cuban. Now, AJ's cigars that he has, we went over a couple of them. The San Lotano, which was originally a Cuban brand that his grandfather worked on, that he brought to Nicaragua and made it the New World brand, if you would. And then New World series, just kind of a play there on that Cuban cigar industry. The Enclave is another cigar. The Bellas Artes, Dias del Gloria, and then the Last Call as well. Also have some of the limited editions like this AJ Fernandez 20th anniversary that I'm smoking right now. Now the cigars or the other companies that AJ collaborates with, Connor, Altadis we mentioned earlier. The Altadis ones that he works on are the Monte Cristo 1935 anniversary, the H. Upmann by AJ Fernandez, obviously, Romeo y Julieta as well. For General Cigar Company, they work on things such as the Punch Diablo.
Yep.
Southern Draw, they've done some stuff with Southern Draw as well. Foundation Cigar Company, we talked about them earlier. The Tabernacle line is made at AJ Fernandez. Artesano del Tobacco gets their Viva la Vida line made at AJ Fernandez. And then Scandinavian Tobacco Group also gets some cigars made down there as well. As far as the Altadis, I know that they also have the Monte Cristo by AJ Fernandez, which is one that I've smoked on the channel. If you'd like to, go ahead over and check that out on our channel.
And we smoked H. Upmann Petit Robusto Cuban on the channel.
Yes, but that was not a AJ Fernandez. That was Cuban H. Upmann.
Yes.
That was the true.
Good point there.
The true
yeah,
boy.
Correct.
Now, as far as like production goes for the AJ Fernandez factory or across both factories, they do over 100,000 cigars a day. A day. That's a lot of production losing by this fire. Obviously, you're just out for a couple days. That's almost 1 million cigars.
But just think about that, though, how well their quality assurance must be if they're putting out 100,000 smokes a day.
They're this good.
And the ash quality and structure on that for a $6 stick.
Yeah. Now they do put out some more of the cheaper stuff like our seconds and stuff.
Yes.
Those get shipped and private labeled for companies like Cigars International,
JR probably.
JR. In fact, Cigars International, I don't know if you ever heard of the line Diesel before.
Yeah. Actually,
Cigars International owns Diesel, and they're made by AJ Fernandez.
I have one in my humidor. I'm not really sure where it came from, but I plan on reviewing it very soon.
Yeah, I definitely got to get it on the review for sure, especially now that I know that that's made in the AJ factory. Connor's burning himself. So yeah, mainly their tobacco sourcing for the AJ farm is actually from his own farms there in Nicaragua. He's got the farm there in Estelí, which is right off of their compound or their actual factory there. They have growing or farms in Cadega and Jalapa as well, which are different regions in Nicaragua. Just known for their vertical integration from their farms to the fermentation facilities to the rolling floors, all the way to the packaging. They do everything in-house, which is just a very big appeal for a lot of these companies that want to just get the whole cigar done by AJ.
It probably helps because they're not paying to transport it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And doing it all in country, in Nicaragua, in a very, very good tobacco region. Estelí is a fantastic tobacco region. And then Jalapa as well, and Cadega just has great farm areas for AJ there. Now, AJ has he's really grown his reputation here in the last 20 years. As I said, it's almost like the guy's been in business for a lot longer than he has with these cigars.
Absolutely.
They're next level. But AJ's really known for that Cuban style Nicaraguan cigar, where I say Cuban style as in It's just balancing those really bold flavors and then just refining that blend.
Well, like, this is a very tasty cigar, but there's not one flavor that's overpowering. Like, I'm not really able to pick out tasting notes as saying, like, oh, this is a walnut. You know what I mean? Like, it's nutty, it's earthy, it's minerally. But beyond that, I would just be kind of guessing and bullshitting you to say I taste a cashew when I smoke this cigar.
Yeah. Now yours is the Connecticut blend.
Yes.
A little bit lighter there on the flavors, or at least the body of the cigar, or intensity. But I agree with you, because mine is not that Connecticut. It is very much a darker shade wrapper here. And I'm getting the same experience. Very, very flavorful. But no, I don't say that's a walnut, that's a cedar.
Yeah.
It's wow, this is really woody. It's almost like there's a couple woods at play, but they're just so well balanced.
Exactly.
It's hard to kind of pick them apart. We will be getting into these cigar reviews here shortly, which I'm actually kind of excited about, because mine has been really, really
mine is
phenomenal.
good too.
But we're going to take a quick break as we are getting towards the end of our second thirds. We need to jot down some notes there for the after show. So we will catch you back here shortly, and we are going to talk about how we taste cigars, or the art of tasting cigars. So we'll see you here shortly. All right, we're cutting back in here for the final third of our episode, as well as the final third of our cigars. In fact, we are talking about the art of tasting a cigar. So I guess before I get into it, because Connor's more of a novice beginner, he probably has better insights since he's just really started tasting cigars. Not that you just started tasting cigars, but like started putting them on paper.
Trying to say, hey, this is what I'm picking out. So, you know, the first thing that I always do is give the wrapper a good smell in the foot, and you look to see what you're getting, right? And one thing that I've really found interesting since I've started to put my thoughts to paper here when I'm tasting a cigar, the flavors that I'm really liking are not the flavors that I used to think I liked in a cigar. I used to really think that I liked the leathery, like earthy, minerally, and I still like those flavors, but what I'm really liking in the cigars is when I get a florally, like fruity flavor cigar.
Yes. Okay.
With the natural, like say that
like that Zeno we just did.
The Zeno, lots of fruit. But I was more in particular thinking that Amazon basin, where it was like you were smoking dried plums, and like you almost tasted like you could pick out, this is absolutely what a date tastes like.
Absolutely, yeah.
So kind of interesting there when you really stop and think what notes you're getting. And I also find that I'm really liking the creamier tastes and notes in cigars, but I'm not really into the coffee and chocolate like I used to think I was.
Mm-hmm. Now, Connor, you have a deviated septum, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners also have deviated septums, and it allows them to not be able to retrohale. So, you know, a lot of people are out there saying the only way that you can taste cigars is by retrohaling. Obviously, that's not the case.
Absolutely not.
But do you feel like you're missing out because you're not able to retrohale?
You know, I don't, because when you're eating food, or when you're drinking whiskey, you sniff it and then you taste it, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're eating food, it's that sight, it's the smell, and it's the flavor. You still get the aroma of the cigar in the room. You still can smell the wrapper. You still can see it, and you see, is it oily? Is it matte? Are there veins? Are there teeth? What does the ash color look like? Am I getting an aged tobacco, or is it something that's kind of musky, right? So I don't think that I'm missing anything at all in the retrohale. Especially like if you're smoking meats, you're smelling it in the air and then you're tasting it. But I think 90% of the taste that you get is on what's on your palate. Yeah.
Now, is there a way that you sample the smoke in your mouth or anything? Or are you just blowing it, getting it in, blowing it out real quick?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I generally, like, I'll do...
Like a 3-puff and then hold it in.
And then I'll hold it in. And I'm not really looking for what's on the back of my tongue. I'm looking for what I taste for on the, like, right inside of my lip there.
Yeah. No,
and whatever's that lasting taste on my lip is generally what I'm tasting in my cigar.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I almost like to think about it from my perspective. like a wine sommelier, how they take their wine, they're shoving it around, get the look at the legs, right? We're looking at the cigar, we're seeing it, we're touching it, getting up to the nub, see if that's a good cool temperature still. It kind of goes into that tasting process, but they're smelling the wine, but then they get it in their mouth. They're not drinking the wine, they just get it in their palate, wash it around their mouth,
aerate it,
spit it out, right? That's kind of what we're doing with this smoke. We're getting it in the mouth, washing it around the palate, and then spitting it out. Now, we're not going to try to be quick with it. I think that's one thing that a lot of people get wrong with cigars is we're just trying to smoke it real quick. I think a puff every 30 to 60 seconds is really what you should be doing. Because if not, like, you think about it as like toast, right? We're toasting the bread, but the quicker or the closer we get that flame to the bread, we're not going to be able to really control that burn, and we're going to burn the bread. We're going to burn it just like on this cigar. If we're getting a lot of coarse flavors on all of our cigars in the final third, and we're trying different cigars, and I'm saying on the channel, wow, this is such a great balanced cigar, and you're like, wow, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Probably because you're smoking it too fast.
And
could
that's
be
a great
humidity
point.
stuff.
You're burning the cigar, you're burning it at a hot temperature, and you're causing more resin to also accumulate.
Absolutely,
so it's
pulling it all through too fast,
throwing off the balance.
Kind of like we talked about in that Macanudo cigar, which we haven't posted here because that's with Corey, our other podcast. But with each puff, it was almost like a different flavor profile with that cigar. Whether it be for the good or the bad, was just interesting. We weren't trying to smoke them too quick or anything that day.
That's another thing that I've really found when I'm doing these reviews. I need to slow it down and bring it back to... I generally smoke a cigar much slower than Steven. And I feel like I'm almost smoking them too fast and not getting the full enjoyment out of the experience because I'm like, smoke, score, video, instead of just really slowing it down and doing it like... At the end of the day, I'm still enjoying the cigar. And I need to make sure that it's not becoming like I'm only doing this for the video.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely from the reviewing perspective, I agree with you there. I think the shorter smokes can be
And that's
that
why
way.
I enjoy the Robusto, but again, I feel like I kind of smoke it too fast because I want to get it on camera and make sure I'm not missing that ash at the right time before the fall,
Right. Definitely. Yeah, I definitely want to catch the ashes on camera and everything. I definitely feel that. One of the things that I definitely highlight as far as the wrapper goes, like when I'm smoking, like, I guess, cigar position in my mouth, I like to actually get my teeth on the edge of the wrapper here.
Okay.
That way, my gums kind of rest on the wrapper itself. So I'm picking up the wrapper's taste and stuff just from my gums sitting on there
And
rather
that is
than my
where
lips.
a majority of the flavor comes from, the wrapper.
Right. But a lot of people like to, pucker up their gums and just put the lips on that cigar. You're not going to get a whole lot of flavor, especially when 80% of that flavor is coming from the wrapper. And probably a good half of that's coming from just your lips laying on the wrapper.
So let me ask you, like I had mentioned what flavors I now enjoy in cigars and realize, what are you looking for? What's your ideal flavor mix up?
I really love chocolate in a cigar, something that's extremely chocolatey. I really like that. So a Maduro, something with a darker wrapper that's going to have those sweeter characteristics to it. I do really enjoy, like we said, that CAO Amazon Basin this year was very fruity, and I liked that fruit aspect to it. But I do like something that just has a flavor that just pops. Now, I know that's anti-balance, but there's balance behind it.
There is.
But there's just good, like, wow, this chocolate really stands out with this graham cracker, or this chocolate and cream really stand out together. This cigar itself is very, very good. I'll get into it here in the after show. But it's got a lot of the flavors that I really like in a cigar, and as far as balance and stuff, like I said, Cuban-like, very, very enjoyable on that end. Really what I'm looking for when I smoke is balance.
Okay.
I really want it to be closer to a Cuban. My father does a really great job of balance with all their cigars. There's a lot of other companies that do a great job with balance throughout all their cigars, like Dunbarton. We've done a lot of Steve Sock on the channel. I just really look for that balance of flavors with the richness aspect in there as well. I'm not really going to sit here and go, wow, I don't like this cigar because it's too woody or anything like that. But there's only one type of cigar that I really just don't like as far as flavors, and that's the ones that taste like manure.
Okay.
One that comes right off the top of my head, and I'm staring at it right now, the Buffalo Trace Anderson's Bell. That one tastes like manure. It smells like manure. You know, we get a lot of the wrappers.
Yeah,
they smell like manure. They smell like barnyard. That one tasted like it.
Yeah.
Which to me, that's not, it's not enjoyable. But it had really rich flavor and was really balanced. You could smoke it. It didn't feel like you got nauseous at all. But it was like, this isn't a flavor that I want to pick out of the box every day. I really enjoy a cigar as more of a dessert cigar in my head. I like to kind of pair it with a meal. Maybe I'll do that here eventually, start pairing them with meals, just because I don't personally drink a lot. So I don't like to, have a pairing there. I usually just pair it with water. But as far as having it after a meal, I just love those chocolatey graham cracker notes that you pick up there. Retrohales, I'm not real big on a retrohale. I know a lot of people are huge on them. They actually some people only score from the retrohale. I think that's wrong. Yes, you pick up different flavors in the retrohale, and some flavors are a little bit more pronounced than others.
Spices generally tend to hang on longer on a retrohale.
Absolutely. I think it's just a little bit more, like you're going to get that black pepper is going to pop more in the retrohale, and I don't want that. From my experience, I don't want something that's really going to
overpower.
I want it to pop. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want it to overpower. And I think that's more of what I'm looking for in the cigar. So for me, retrohaling, I probably do it only 4 times throughout the cigar. And if I'm not reviewing, maybe only once.
Yeah. Because
it's way more enjoyable for me to pick up the notes just through my mouth. Again, like we talked about the sommelier, just getting that smoke, wrapping it around your mouth, and then blowing it out nice and smooth. Try to pick up the flavors as they come out of your mouth. I think that's one thing that I really noticed from my tasting.
And the aroma in the room too. I like to see what the aroma in the room is. I don't generally give that as, obviously it's not a flavor profile, but what am I smelling off of it?
Absolutely. It's part of the cigar tasting experience. Yeah. Absolutely. Just like how we, when we go into a cigar shop and you pick out your cigar and you look at it in the cellophane, see if it's got those bumps in it or not. Mm-hmm. See if it's got any nicks or not.
It's kind of interesting as you mentioned that. When I'm in a cigar shop, I'm generally drawn to the lighter shade Connecticut wrappers. I know Connecticut's more of a taste thing, it's subjective, but when you think Connecticut, you think lighter shades.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something like that in a cigar shop. But when I'm online, I tend to lean more towards the Maduro darker shade cigars. It's
interesting. Maybe is it something that you think about, like when you're in the shop, do you think, hey, I'm looking for something to smoke right now? Because I was just in a shop last week for that Perdomo event, actually. And while in that shop, I was looking at different cigars. I bought a bunch to just review on the channel, but the ones that I smoked in that shop that day were all Connecticut's.
Yeah.
Now it was earlier in the day, so I was like, hey, I want to be drawn a little bit more towards a Connecticut. So time of day for me was also a thing. I was also in the mood not for something heavy, a little bit lighter. Is that something that goes through your head because you're in the shop, you want to smoke it now?
I think it's that, and I think I smoke a lot of my cigars for reviews in the morning, near my coffee time with coffee or something like that, so this tends to go better. Or if I'm getting the darker cigars, I'm ordering online much later in the evening, and I'm thinking of it as more of what am I going to take on the golf course with me? And when I'm on the golf course, I'm unintentionally but already spacing out the smoking period of that cigar because we're putting it down for shots, we're going to the green, we're on the tee box.
Right.
So it's not that constant pull. And I feel like the darker Maduros you get a better quality cigar if you smoke it slower.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of those that are made with thicker wrappers on them, especially the Maduros. The further we go up the tobacco plant, the thicker that leaf's going to be.
And it's going to hold that ash and burn better when you're putting it down, picking it up.
Absolutely.
Not smoking on. Where this, I feel like if I was to set this down on the golf course, I probably would have had to relight it a time or two.
Yeah, especially if you're going to set it down even in the shack
gas.
here.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like it's possibly going to go out. It's definitely a lighter wrapper as
Less
far as
oil.
like the thinness is what I'm talking about. And then the thickness of the Maduro is usually thicker. In fact, what we can see on this particular one, Connor, I'm showing Connor it, but you can actually almost see like the thickness of the wrapper outside there, and there it seems very thin.
This is almost like a printing paper versus a business card or something.
Right,
if you're going to compare it.
Right. And that's just typically and it's not all wrappers are not that way, but most Maduro wrappers do have a thicker wrapper themselves, which is nice for, like what you said, putting it down, which is another point that I'd like to bring up. Relighting your cigar does affect the flavor profile of the cigar. It will make those flavors right off the bat a little bit more of a flavor bomb in your mouth. But also, when we get down to the final third, if we were relighting in the first third, it's going to be a little bit more coarse in the final third just because we relit.
Very good
Something
point.
to think about, but do not overdo it your cigar. If you're feeling a little like shaky or, I'm sinking into my chair a little bit,
Stop.
Put it down.
Yeah.
Put it down. You can relight it. Yes, it's going to get a little coarse, but you're not going to notice a huge difference.
And that's a huge misconception that people tell you, if it goes out, don't relight it.
Yeah.
You can absolutely relight a cigar, but make sure you're gently getting off all that flaky ash. Get it down to where it's just kind of dark burnt tobacco, and then slowly relight it, and then just puff on it. Especially if you're a novice or a weekly smoker, you're not going to notice a huge difference in the overall flavor.
No,
you're going to notice it on that first puff or two.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
once you get like a eighth of a fraction of an inch down, you're not tasting a difference in that cigar.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And then, obviously on the finish, it's going to be a little bit more coarse because of that. But
yes,
if we're relighting it five times,
if you're relighting it down in here, it's going to change the flavor profile. But if it's up in here, you're not going to notice it too much.
Yeah. If we're relighting it like 5 times, we're definitely going to notice it.
Yeah.
But once or twice, 3 times, I don't see an issue with that at all.
And it depends, again, like how close you have the lighter when you're relighting it. What are you using? Are you using, matches? That all plays into it.
Right, yes. And we can get into kind of that.
If I left ash like that, I'm not going to relight it like that, because you're going to burn all of that ash to the burn line, and then you're going to relight your cigar, and it's not going to taste right. You really want to clean that edge off if you can.
I agree with you. And there's
I do it all the time.
There's 100 ways, 1,000 ways to smoke a cigar or enjoy. What I should say is enjoy a cigar, because I know a lot of people that just like to chew on it.
Yeah.
And that's all they do. They chew on it. They get the end really busted up, and then they throw it out. There's, again, like I said, 1,000 different ways to enjoy the cigar. And whatever way you do enjoy your cigar, that's more power to you. Enjoy it your own way. But we're just telling you kind of if you want to taste a cigar, or you're like, hey, I'm having trouble picking up notes in this cigar. Well, number one, it might just be the cigar. Number two, it might be the way that you're smoking it. It might be the way you're lighting it. It might be the way that you're humidifying that cigar. There's a lot that goes into play as far as getting the flavors out of the cigar. I get a lot of questions on our YouTube channel, like, how are you picking up these flavors? I've been smoking for 5-6 years, and I can't pick these up. I smoked for about 8 years, maybe 7 years, before I really started actually picking up flavors. And yeah, early on, I picked up some flavors and was like, wow, that chocolate really pops. But there wasn't like, I got these other 4 notes either. So, with time comes that, but also just getting better at trying to diagnose the smoke in your mouth. you have to think about it. It's one of those things that, like, you can't just sit here, light it up,
watch a basketball
smoke,
game.
right? Watch a basketball game and go, wait, I didn't taste any chocolate. I didn't taste any of this.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't really think about it.
Sit down with the scorecard and really think about what
Right.
you're smoking, what your experience is,
Correct.
what you like and don't like.
Yeah, pick out your Cigar TV burn rate
Yep.
scorecard and go through each of the factors. Now, yes, you're not going to have those on the scorecard. It doesn't have the notes section for flavor profiles. You can put that off to the side in like your notes app, but really you're not picking those up right away. Now, maybe you watch one of our videos and go, hey, these are the notes they're picking up. Let me see if I can pick those up in the cigar as well.
And let me speak to that for a second too. When you really sit down and you're really taking a fine-tooth comb to I challenge you, pull out your favorite cigar, think in your head what it's going to score at, but don't be married to that score. I almost guarantee you it's going to score lower than you think.
Yes, it always does.
Yes.
Especially with your good ones. I think, well, one of yours, you texted me about it, was that Oliva Melania V, which
Perfect example.
scored a lot lower than I thought it would, just even if I was to pick it up and score it. But it's one of your favorites, and it's not one of my favorites. No. I don't really enjoy it at all. So I was just kind of blown away with not how low that score was.
It wasn't even a low score, but it was much lower
compared to what you like, I guess.
And that's a cigar that, probably 6 or 7 times out of 10, it's what I'm smoking on the golf course.
Yeah, it's a good cigar.
It's a good cigar, but it scored much lower than I thought it would, and it wasn't even a low score.
Right. Yeah. No, I actually do like that thought you brought up there. In fact, if you guys want to go ahead and pick out your favorite cigar, let us know in the comments what that is, and if you happen to score it, what did you score it? I would be very interested in hearing everybody's responses on, wow, yeah, this did score a lot lower than I thought. Now mine was I don't really have a favorite right now, but before we started reviewing, my favorite was the Les Bourgeois, my father Les Bourgeois 1922. And that cigar was my favorite just because in 2016, when I had it, it was, I believe, the cigar of the year, so that's why I grabbed it. And it was the first flavors that I really picked up in a cigar. It's like, wow, this is really balanced, and these are flavors. This is what a cigar tastes like. Wow. So for me, that was something really big, and I believe I did review it. Scored a lot lower than I thought. Not hugely lower, but definitely lower. As we're getting more into these cigars, I'm noticing that I'm leaning more towards these boutique brands. They kind of have these unique... They just go about the cigar industry a different way, and I just enjoy that. Yeah,
I absolutely... To piggyback off that, not to cut you off because you were getting into it yourself, but 2-3 years ago, I would never pick up a boutique cigar. I would never pick up, never ever do it. I'm going for what's a name brand, what's an AJ Fernandez and all of Romeo and H. Upmann, and those I'm sticking to that. Yep. But now that we've been doing this and scoring cigars, Tabanero might be my new favorite cigar.
Yeah, really.
They're fantastically crafted, and the flavor profile, it's what I'm looking for in a cigar. It has some fruit in there, there's some chocolate, but it's not overpowering, and the draw, and it tastes more like the owner cares about, not to say that the Oliva brands don't care about each, because 9 times out of 10 you're getting a perfect burn on an Oliva or something like that as well.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
But when the owner is invested in each individual stick from a boutique cigar company, I feel like it just brings a different balance and perspective and flavor to the industry. Yeah,
I agree with you there. Well, I also think that they're just doing things different. I think Dunbarton, one of my companies that I've really loved lately, that since we started reviewing cigars.
Yeah, you've been really high on Dunbarton.
Yeah, my wallet has not enjoyed them, but which I'm sure a lot of you who buy Dunbarton products, you're aware. But you also know, I just spent $20 on that cigar. I'm going to get a good cigar. I'm going to get a good smoke. Not only is it going to burn really well and all that, but I'm going to get good flavors out of this thing, and I'm going to get $20 worth of the cigar.
Yep.
Not to knock Cohiba, but Cohiba New World, a lot of their $20 stuff, it's just $20 because their name's Cohiba. It's not that good. It should be priced at $12, but 3-4 years ago, me and you both were probably going in that store buying a Cohiba, right?
That's the first thing we're buying.
Until we opened up these boutiques, which I'm with you. These boutiques, it's like they're just doing stuff differently.
And I still really enjoy Cohiba Red Dot cigar.
Yeah.
But you just think about it differently. Like, hey, I paid $12 for this stick, and it's good, but I could get a boutique cigar for $12, and it's just as good, if not better, in the flavor.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing that I worry about with the boutiques is usually the construction of them. But as of lately, these boutiques are almost better than regular brands. I mean, this AJ's burning phenomenally. It's got a great flavor and everything. Definitely a bigger brand, but I'm not putting it up there with General Cigar Company.
Here's a perfect example
New
of
Worlds.
that. With the boutiques, I'm noticing, especially like a really small boutique cigar,
Connor's opening up his travel humidor right now.
You're gonna notice something like there's kind of more nicks on the wrapper, and there's one in here that I'm particularly looking for, and it's probably at the bottom, and I'm not going to be able to find it. I'm going to give up on that. But you see more discolorization on the stick. Here it is, right here. That's a perfect example of what you would see on a boutique cigar, where you got like just random colors on that wrapper there.
Right. It's not the perfect.
It's not the perfect wrapper. But it's not affecting the draw. It's not affecting the burn. And the flavor is generally really damn good.
Yeah.
So, not to put this brand out there, I'm looking forward to smoking this. But, that's just something you're going to see with a boutique cigar, and that makes it its own.
Right. No, absolutely. It
makes it unique.
And they're not going to, like boutique companies, they're not going to get the high line of tobacco, right?
Yes, they're not buying the top.
They're not Rocky Patel. They're not going to buy the Connecticut 12-year shade-grown tobacco.
They might not even have access to it.
$60 a pound.
They might not have access to the rights on that field because they can't afford to pay the $60 a pound.
Right. And I mean, it's just some of that tobacco can be extremely expensive. And especially if you're like, hey, I want the good stuff that doesn't have any blemishes or anything. It's kind of like going to your produce market. Same thing. You're going to spend more for that apple that looks like an apple, but if you're buying offline that has those like weird, the weird shaped grocery items, the apple tree doesn't produce a perfect apple every time, but only the perfect ones are sold to the grocery store.
Or like a McDonald's French fry, right? You never find a flaw in any of their potatoes.
Right.
But if you go to a bar and you're getting like some random ass spud thrown in some greasy fryer, I almost guarantee you it tastes better than the one at McDonald's that has no flaws.
Yeah, it might have to do with the beef tallow they're using or different frying oil and stuff. But I'm with you, yes. It's definitely different in that aspect. And what kind of tobaccos we can use, what kind of rollers do we have access to? How can we price point ourselves to be competitive with all these bigger companies that are charging $20 a stick? How can we make a cigar that's better than that at that same price point, which is really tough because they have access to the best tobaccos at the lowest prices and everything.
And the marketing, too. I mean, they have access to being on the covers of Cigar Aficionado, and they're the highlights on the pages when you go to JR Cigars or something like that. They're the Olivia on sale now. Buy your Parrot with Cohiba 5-pack.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
no, I'm with you. It's definitely...
It's the company's the cigar sellers are advertising for the bigger brands for free because they're making more on those sticks. Right.
No, it makes sense. And they're also able to give bigger discounts on those because, Dunbarton...
They're producing 100,000 versus 10,000.
Right. Well, Dunbarton, you're looking at them, and it's like, why do these never go on sale online? Even whenever there's a sale, like JR might throw out there, hey, it's a 40% off sale today.
Excludes.
There's some exclusions apply. Well, that exclusion is a lot of these boutique brands because they can't discount. They're already price pointed at a point where they've already discounted to get there. They don't have much leeway on giving away free cigars or anything like that. So with these boutique brands themselves, also, just they have to hit. That's the one thing that I've really noticed about them is most of the time they hit because we need to make something that, stands out amongst all these others. And we don't have the money to advertise, like you're saying, on some of these big platforms. I need to make a good cigar then. And if it's $12, I might pay $10 for that stick and I'm selling them almost for nothing.
And another company that's coming to mind here, and we've been smoking a lot of like Tampa tobacco here. Obviously, we just got back from Tampa Cigar Week. We stocked up. The West Tampa, it's probably on the line of borderline becoming a bigger company, right? I mean,
I would say it's still very boutique,
but they're making a name for themselves.
Very much so.
And they're very, very tasty, really well-made cigars.
Yeah. And for me, I guess my definition of boutique, which I guess West Tampa would they definitely still fall under my definition, but I don't know if they'd fall under a general definition.
I don't either.
The boutique, from my perspective, is it owned by like a family or 1-2 people? Is it not conglomerate owned? Number one. Number two, the size of production. I think Perdomo 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago was boutique.
Yep.
Not now. They're a bigger company. But as far as their selection goes, it almost seems more boutique because they don't have a huge selection. But each one of the cigars hits, right?
So I think my what I would consider boutique differs slightly, and mine being, if I walk into a cigar shop and I ask 3 people or 5 people, if 3 people don't know the brand, it's probably boutique.
Yeah, well, definitely. But are you asking the tobacconists in there, or are you asking like just lounge
I'm just asking
goers?
the people.
The lounge lizards.
The lounge, yeah.
The lizards, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you there too. But there's some companies like Room 101, for example. I think they're a boutique company, although they're owned by General Cigar Company or Scandinavia. I think it's General Cigar Company owns them. Actually, let me ask the chat right now who owns them. Our wealth of knowledge is the Chat GPT, AI based. Gotta love the chat.
Gotta love AI.
All right, we got Room 101. Yep, Scandinavian Tobacco Group.
Oh, perfect timing.
Our video cut out, so we will be taking a brief break. And, I'm down to my nub. I mean, I'm burning my fingers, Connor.
Yeah.
But gonna get these scores together for you, and then we're gonna cut back in here. Sorry about that. Video cut out there, so we took a little bit of a break. We are now back. Our cigars were just finishing up there. Just talking about the Room 101 real quick. Scandinavian Tobacco Group owned. They bought it in June of 2022 from Matt Booth, who created the company in 2009. So probably not more of a boutique brand now because they've been bought out by the bigger company, but was a boutique brand in 2009. For us, we have run out of time, though. Our smoke timers are out. Just like the name of the show, the smoke timer. Our smokes are out, so the time of the show is out. We will see you next week. Actually, we're going to stick around if you want to. We will have the after show here shortly, and we're going to talk about our rollout as far as the Smoke Shack goes in our media as well as the podcasts. So stick around for that, and we'll catch you next time here on the Smoke Shack podcast.